I read this 2009 research review from researchers at the National Institute of Health so that you don't have to. I see this review as the reality check that came 9 years after the famous Edmonton Protocol, where 7 people with type 1 diabetes stopped needing insulin after islet transplantation. If you want a refresher on that study, check out my previous video. Shout out to Canada. The researchers wanted to know if islet transplantation, which is the same procedure that made headlines after the Edmonton Protocol, was really ready for clinical use. And what did they find? As a type 1 diabetic myself who wants the disease solved, it hurts me to say that the results just didn't hold up. Let's break down the 3 major issues with islet transplantation as they were understood in 2009. Issue 1, the drugs. To stay insulin-free, patients needed immunosuppression drugs. These drugs stop the immune system from attacking the new islet cells, but at a serious cost. They can damage the kidneys, raise blood pressure and cholesterol, and even harm the transplanted beta cells themselves. By April 2008, the Clinical Islet Transplant Registry had recorded 325 people who'd received islet transplants. 7 had died, and 14 had developed tumors, several linked directly to the immunosuppression drugs. For comparison, someone managing type 1 diabetes with standard insulin therapy had an estimated annual excess mortality rate of only 0.1%. In simple terms, your odds of staying alive were higher just sticking with the standard insulin therapy than undergoing islet transplantation. If you have contacts with the Clinical Islet Transplant Registry, please let me know. I would love to talk to them. Issue 2, not sustainable. The original 2000 Edmonton Protocol study looked incredible, with 7 out of 7 people insulin-free after 1 year. But when researchers checked back later, only 1 person was still insulin independent 5 years out. Issue 3, cost and supply. Each islet transplant costs over $150,000 in the first year alone, including surgery, hospital care, and the drugs. Ongoing annual healthcare costs from follow-ups and medication would only push that number higher. Compare that to the lifetime cost of insulin therapy, which was estimated at about $116,000 back in 1996. Economically, insulin therapy just makes more sense. But here's the kicker. Even if you're willing to spend the money for islet transplantation, there aren't enough donor organs to go around. The US only has about 8,000 pancreases available per year, and each islet transplant typically needs cells from 2 to 4 of them. If everyone needed a transplant got one, the math just simply wouldn't work. So by 2009, the conclusion was clear. Islet transplantation wasn't ready for real-world use. It could help smooth out blood sugar levels, but at the cost of kidney damage, infection risk, and lifelong drug toxicity. Insulin therapy was still safer, more sustainable, and far cheaper. This review is honest, sobering, and data-driven. It shows how tough curing diabetes really is. However, I do wish it was a little bit more optimistic. To me, it felt like it was dismissing some of the great work that came before it. It's easy to criticize the past with the knowledge of today. I'm giving this paper an 8.5 out of 10 on my completely made-up type 1 diabetes research score, which puts it in second place among all the studies I've reviewed so far. There's a link to the full article in the description. I highly recommend reading this one. Special thanks to the researchers for keeping it publicly available. If you're interested in type 1 diabetes research, subscribe for more.